U.S. forces have rescued a second service member missing since Iran downed a F-15 fighter jet on Friday. The airman's extraction followed a major search and rescue mission. Donald Trump said the weapon systems officer was injured but in stable condition.
Iran's military says this is the debris left behind after the U.S. mission to rescue its downed fighter jet crew from deep within enemy territory. Both sides are claiming a victory after one of the war's most dramatic moments. Early on Sunday, President Donald Trump declared, "We got him," detailing what he called one of the most daring search and rescue operations in U.S. history. 2 crew members from an F-15 Strike Eagle like this one were declared missing on Friday after ejecting from their aircraft. Iran said it had shot down the fighter jet and showed off fragments from its strike. Trump said the U.S. military rescued the first crew member after several hours. But the second became the focus of a massive manhunt by both sides. Iranian state TV announced a reward for the capture of the enemy and showed images of militia on the hunt. Have you found anything yet?
God willing, he'll be found.
The U.S. mobilized its elite Navy SEALs, which, according to U.S. media, opened fire on Iranian convoys as they swept in and recovered the missing crew member. He had reportedly been hiding in mountainous terrain, armed with a pistol and tracking beacon. U.S. sources said there was a technical malfunction during the extraction, forcing the commandos to blow up 2 of their own transport planes. But Iran claimed the collateral damage as its own victory, releasing these images of burning wreckage in the central Isfahan region.
Following examinations by experts at the scene, it was determined that 2 C-130 military aircraft and 2 Black Hawk helicopters of the U.S. Army were destroyed through the fulfillment of promise and help of Almighty God.
Both Washington and Tehran are using the incident to declare their superiority over the skies. The full details of the mission will likely become the stuff of military legend for years to come.
Well, let's talk about this military legend. Jonathan Hackett is a retired U.S. Marine Corps Special Operations Capabilities Specialist. He's joining us from New Haven, Connecticut. Good to have you with us. So, details about the rescue mission, which is also known as combat search and rescue, are gradually emerging. There are contradictions, however. There was talk of a firefight during the rescue. This has been debunked. Also, the true number of troops involved was disputed from hundreds to fewer than 100. Why all this confusion?
I think there are a few different sources of the confusion. First, to understand the combat search and rescue mission, one must understand that there are forces outside of Iran that are also participating in this, which can give that larger number of over 100. But inside of the country, actually, would be much fewer people. There were a couple of Little Bird helicopters involved and some transport aircraft. And the problem was the transport aircraft actually got stuck in the dirt there where they made a tactical landing zone, which required the infiltration of more forces than were initially expected to start the rescue. But that's part of the reason why that aircraft had to be destroyed on site before the forces were able to leave.
OK, so this is something that we know now. We also know that the crew member spent some 24 hours alone, hiding in the mountains with a handgun and a tracking beacon. I assume that this is how the U.S. rescue team detected him. And if so, wasn't that dangerous? Because that would leave him exposed to detection by the Iranian military as well?
Every pilot in the United States goes through a very difficult training program to survive, evade, resist, and escape in a situation just like this. And there are multiple ways to communicate besides the radio beacon. And the pilot or weapons officer would use this beacon at very specific moments where it was safest to use it, and then it would not use it until the next time it was required to be used. So the person would go and find safety, use the beacon, and move to a new location of safety, all according to their training. And this is how the United States was able to safely find them and then rescue them without Iranian forces coming onto the scene.
And we know that because you just mentioned without Iranian forces or even Iranian contact there, because, I mean, 24 hours can be a very long time. You just mentioned that members of the U.S. military are, of course, trained very well. But how are they expected to handle such a situation? Also mentally, what are they being trained for there?
There are a number of factors besides the hostile forces to consider, as you noted. So in this area, it's around 37 degrees Celsius during the day. It's quite hot. The person went down without much food or water at all. So they need to actually think about, how do I feed myself? How do I get water? Where is safety to sleep during the night? Without considering the hostile forces at all. They also need to think about the terrain, because looking at this area, there are a number of steep ridge lines and valleys, and very hard to navigate through this area, which is about 30 kilometers south of Isfahan, which is a major city. But this area they were in is actually very little population, and it's a small ethnic group called the Lori people that actually live in this area, that are very separate from the central government of Iran. So there may have been some actual local people there to either provide assistance or allow safe passage through the area, to kind of demonstrate their support for the U.S. forces in the area, actually.
And would you agree with Donald Trump's post where he declared that this was one of the most daring search and rescue operation in U.S. military history?
This is, in fact, one of the most complicated special operations rescues that we've ever heard of since 1980, when the United States first tried to rescue Americans in Iran during the Operation Eagle Claw, which was actually a failed rescue attempt and spurred the creation of Special Operations Command, the very unit that affected this rescue yesterday.
And what do we know about the rescued crew member? Do we know his identity, and what exactly is his physical condition? We heard that he's injured. How bad is it?
So this person's identity will be withheld for two reasons. First, to identify the family and notify the family this person's been rescued, and to let them know that they're okay. And second, this person will be debriefed by trained professionals to better understand, while it's still fresh in their mind, what their evasion situation was like, to help inform future training. And we don't want the public to be aware of that person's condition during this period of time, because they're in a very fragile mental state, and they're certainly injured after the landing in the desert area, besides the hostile forces tracking them. So that person's going to get medical attention and care and debriefing before the public knows who they are.
All right. Jonathan Hackett, retired U.S. Marine Corps Special Operations Capability Specialist there. Jonathan, thank you so very much for your time.
Thank you.